Hi, guys.
Hi,
Hello.
hi, Mr. Call. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Let's start this interview that I know that is not easy. A lot of interview. Welcome back to Brazil and welcome back to the island of metal. It's an honor to have be with you, Mr. Cal Palmer.
Right.
Uh, the first question that you are like keeping the legacy, the music of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Uh, but my first question is, what do you think that the future generation you thinking about Emerson, Lake and Palmer? In your point of view, what do you think you let from music in the future?
What are you asking me? What I think future generations are thinking
No,
about
no, the legacy of music of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
what do I think they'll be thinking? I think you have. I mean, the legacy of the music basically was the barriers that were crossed, and the barriers that were crossed were the adaptations of classical music, such as pictures at an exhibition, like things like by Barbarian, Bartok, and so forth. I think that will be the beginning of that legacy, plus the fact that the very first pieces of prog rock music were recorded by ELP. And say that, I mean Tarkus. The blueprint was laid down by us. I think that will be the legacy. Whether or not, other people have got other ideas, I don't know. But those are the general ideas I would have thought.
Yes, about this concert, I was naming like a virtual minute with Kate Emerson and Greg Lake because you have some parts that you play in video with Kate Emerson and Greg Lake. Uh, how was I would ask you what could you explain how do you feel this? How do you feel to play with your partners, of course, and what is this moment for you?
How do I feel? Well, I feel that it's a great idea because it's original. It's using Greg and Keith at their very best. They're not holograms.
Hmm.
And it's something that they would have loved to have seen as Keith Emerson and Greg Lake. And both of the families, the Emersons and the Lakes, are in total agreement with what I'm doing. I think it's being done in the best possible taste. And as I say, they're not holograms. So this is a genuine show. This is something which is real. The soundtracks are being mixed every night in the hall that we play because all of Keith Emerson's organs, Moog synthesizers, Greg Lake's voice, his guitars, his bass guitars are all being mixed separately because they can be. They're on different tracks. So this is something which is quite unique in the world of rock and roll, in the world of entertainment. So I'm very, very pleased that we've got a chance to bring it over to South America. And as I say, I believe this is the best possible way to portray the music, to take it further, and to bring Greg and Keith back in the way that they would have liked, they would have approved. So I think this is the genuine article. This is the only show, even here in America, that's actually touring. Some people have played one song, or two songs, but I actually play 9 songs with Greg and Keith on the screen, and we play other pieces of music from ELP's catalogue with Paul and Simon. So it's quite an involved, in-depth show. Apart from having many, how can I put it, pieces of vintage footage which people have never seen, we show as well. So it's a complete. People are completely immersed in the show.
When we are playing when you are playing in some concert that you play, bring some memories for another concert, another thing to see, a moment with Kate Emerson and Greg Lake when you are playing.
Memories.
Yes, yes. When you are playing together, your partners, right?
There's lots of memories. The memories are the music. The music are the memories. That's the memories. I've got nothing to tell you about Rolls Royces and swimming pools. The memories are the music
Yes.
and what we did as a group. I think that was fantastic. I would say to you that probably one of the biggest memories would be Fanfare for the Common Man recorded at Montreal Olympic Stadium, which you know about. That was a big moment. And then going back there and playing with the orchestra. That would be a very strong memory. And also recording it and videoing the orchestra.
Oh, great. I got now a personal question, but as you as a drummer, I think you are the last icon of the drums. Like you play drum like I can compare you with Jason Bohan, Kate Moon, right? And now I see a lot of drummers with very technique, but I don't feel in these drummers the feeling that you, Jason Bohan, Kate Moon, and others learners. What do you think is the difference from?
I mean, I have to disagree with you. I do think there's some many great drummers today, unknown drummers. People like Luke Holland is a great. You've probably never heard of him, but there's a great young drummer. And then there's the obvious choices of these other great drummers like Eloy Casagrande, who's in Slipknot, another great drummer. There are lots of them out there. I think the music business is different, and I think the when I came up, they made me iconic, along with Keith Moon, along with John Bonham, along with Nick Mason or whoever. We were in the bands that were like big globally, and because of that we became iconic. But I do think that exists today, but it's in a different format and it's thought of differently, and because we're older maybe we can't see it, but there are some great players, and they will be iconic figures in the future. That's for sure. I mean, I would imagine people like Mike Portnoy, who's back in Dream Theater, is thought of as a fantastic, iconic drummer for being in one. That's a real prog band. That's a prog band. I've never classified Emerson, Lake and Palmer as a prog group, but they're a real prog band. If you want to just go for that, not so melodic, lots of technical stuff, lots of time changes. ELP wasn't quite like that. We had a lot of ballads, songs, Lucky Man, Still You Turn Me On, C'est la vie. So they weren't prog. And we had this eclectic, what we call eclectic thing, where you had classical music, we were adaptations. So we were different. We had prog, we had pirates, we had Tarkas, yeah, but it was only part of it.
Thank you very much for this class, Mr. Carl Palmer. Thank you so much. Now I have a curious. Now you are talking about. I remember another great drummer that replaced you when you are in Asia. That was Emerson, Lake and Powell.
Yes.
Yes. That. What do you think about that record? Do you listen? Do you like it? What do you think about the Cos Powell?
I think it was very good. I enjoyed the fact of Emerson, Lake and Powell going out. I was impressed with all of that. Cozy Powell called me and asked me why I wasn't doing it. And the reason why I didn't do it, there was no problem in me joining. I had 4 weeks left in the studio and I needed to finish an Asia album. And I said to Greg and Keith, I need 4 weeks. If you wait 4 weeks, then that would be great. Now, it had already been 12 years since we played together. They didn't want to wait. So I was not going to push the effort. I said, look, I actually needed 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. But in the studio, things go wrong. So I said 4 weeks to them. Not knowing, because you have to be careful. They said no, they wanted to start. So I said, well, you go ahead and play. And as far as I was concerned, if that's what they wanted to do, I wasn't going to stop them. And I look at the whole thing as like this. If they went out with Emerson, Lake and Powell, it does mean they would promote all of the other material that I'd recorded with the band. So it was a win-win for everybody. So, we eventually got back together as Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So whilst there might have been a little bit of damage done, it didn't crucify us, but it wasn't the best move we ever made. And maybe they should have waited, but that was their choice.
Yeah, for sure. Was this simple question, Mr. Carl Palmer. I would thank you so much for this is the second time that I interview you. Thank you so much for this new opportunity. Now it's that time that I ask you to invite all your fans here in Brazil to see this Emerson, Lake and Palmer concert or virtual concert that you release here in May on Teatro Bradesco here in São Paulo.
Yeah, well, I want everyone to come to this concert and experience this Emerson, Lake and Palmer extravaganza. I mean, you all know the date. I've already done a shout out for the date and for the theatre. So, yeah, we're looking forward to playing it. I especially am looking forward to bringing this high-end technology to Brazil that I know they've never seen live before. So for me, it's a great fulfillment, and there's a lot of enjoyment in this. And I'm sure the Brazilian people are going to really enjoy it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carl Palmer, for this opportunity. Sorry for something.
No, that's fine.
See you in May in Brazil. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.